In the vast and bustling cities of ancient Rome, daily life looked surprisingly familiar, yet wonderfully strange. Take the bathroom, for example. Instead of toilet paper, Romans used something called a tersorium, a sponge attached to a wooden stick. After doing their business, they'd rinse it in vinegar or salt water and then place it back for the next person to use. Yes, it was shared. These public latrines were social spaces with long marble benches side by side, no stalls, no privacy, just conversation and a communal sponge. To us, it might sound strange, but to the Romans, it was just another part of their carefully designed city life. Their plumbing systems were advanced, their sewers vast and complex, and their attention to hygiene surprisingly ahead of their time. And as we drift deeper into Rome's fascinating world, you'll find that oddity was the norm and comfort often came in the most curious of details. The Colosseum, that grand and iconic arena, known for its towering arches and stories of gladiators and roaring crowds. But what many people don't know is that once upon a time, the Romans filled it with water. They turned the Colosseum into a lake, and they used it to reenact epic naval battles, complete with real ships rowing, clashing, and sinking. Imagine sitting in the shade of those mighty stone stands, a warm Roman breeze on your face as miniature fleets glided through the arena before you. It was called a naumachia, a staged sea battle. Some were recreations of historic conflicts, others pure spectacle, filled with drama, music, and even floating scenery. The engineering alone was a marvel. Beneath the Colosseum, hidden channels, pipes, and trap doors made it all possible, filling and draining the arena like magic. Of course, over time, these water shows faded, replaced by more familiar games, the ones with lions and shields. But for a time, the Colosseum was more than a place of combat. It was a lake in the middle of a city, a living stage for floating stories. And as we drift along through the echoes of ancient Rome, you'll see that even stone and sand could hold water and wonder. In a quiet corner of ancient Rome, before the age of peppermint and plastic, keeping your teeth clean was still a daily ritual, but their version of toothpaste was a little different. The Romans mixed their dental powders with crushed bones, ash, and oyster shells. And sometimes they added something more unusual: crushed mouse, skulls. Yes, ground up remains of tiny field mice, believed to strengthen the teeth and whiten the smile. They believed the calcium from the skulls helped preserve the teeth, and like many Roman remedies, it blended science with superstition. To us, it might seem unusual, even unthinkable, but for the Romans, it was part of a larger rhythm, a world where healing came from earth, from animals, from the ashes of the natural world. And maybe, as strange as it sounds, there's a certain charm in how connected they were to everything around them. So the next time you reach for your minty toothpaste, you might think of a Roman crushing a tiny skull with care under the soft glow of a Roman dawn. In ancient Rome, gods weren't distant beings, watching silently from the heavens. They were everywhere, in every doorway, every corner, every quiet moment. The Romans had gods for beginnings, for endings, for thresholds, for drains, even For toilets, meet Cloacina, the goddess of the sewer. She watched over Rome's great drainage system, the Cloaca Maxima, and kept the city clean and flowing. Then there was Cardia, the goddess of door hinges, Forculus, god of doorways, and Limentinus, who protected thresholds. Every creak of wood, every turn of a handle, every exit and return was watched over, because in Rome, the divine was woven into the fabric of daily life. These weren't distant deities of thunder or fire. They were guardians of the ordinary, protectors of the quiet, in a world lit by oil lamps, where every shadow might hold a presence. Romans found comfort in knowing someone or something was always watching over. And so, even as they whispered goodnight to the gods of hearth and hall, they did so gently, with gratitude, for another day under their quiet, unseen gaze. Close your eye and imagine the scent of ancient Rome. It wasn't just the smell of stone and sun, but of flowers, spices, and oil-washed marble. The wealthy Romans perfumed their wall, their floors, even their ceilings. Rooms were anointed with oils made of roses, violets, cinnamon, myrrh. Visitors would be greeted not just by warmth and wine, but by scent. Rooms would glow with sandalwood. Halls would whisper with lavender. In the triclinium, the dining room, floors were sometimes sprinkled with crushed herbs. So with each step, a soft fragrance rose beneath your sandals. Even the walls were rubbed with scented wax or oil, giving them a sheen that shimmered under torchlight. The scent clung to the stone, as if the room itself was alive. The Roman home was more than shelter. It was a living, breathing space, crafted to awaken every sense. And so, when night fell and the air grew cooler, the scent of violet might still linger on the breeze, a memory soaked into stone. If there was one place where Romans paused the rush of empire, it was the bath. Not just a place to get clean, but a daily ritual, a moment of stillness and steam. Each bathhouse was a world of its own, marble-lined and echoing softly, with pools of every temperature, warm, hot, and icy cold. They began with oil, rubbed across the skin, then scraped away with a tool called a strigil. Then, into the water, the heat opening every pore, the quiet conversation echoing off stone walls. And afterward, time to rest. Some napped in shaded courtyards. Others read or listened to musicians by candlelight. There were libraries, snack vendors, even barbers. The bath was where Romans connected, relaxed, and let the weight of the day melt away. And perhaps there's something to learn from this ancient commitment to rest. In a world ruled by empire, there was always time for the bath, a daily return to calm, warmth, and silence. As night fell over Rome and the streets grew silent, a different kind of world began to stir. The Romans believed that dreams were more than imagination. They were messages, carried on the winds of sleep, sent by the gods. Some dreams were thought to come from within, born of the soul, but others came from beyond. They called these the Divina Somnia, sacred dreams. In sacred places, dreamers would lie down on the floor of a temple, waiting for visions sent by the gods. This ritual was called incubatio, sleeping in the presence of divinity, and when they awoke, they would describe what they saw, what they felt. Each image, each symbol was examined for meaning. A snake in the grass, a chariot in the clouds, a voice in the dark. Each one could be a sign of healing, of danger, or of favor from a god. Even the great Roman generals consulted dreams before battle. Some carried dream interpreters with them, like one might carry a sword. And ordinary people, just like you, might whisper their dreams to household gods or write them in secret, hoping to catch a glimpse of fate. To the Romans, dreams were not forgotten. They were maps, messages, small windows to something just beyond reach. So as you drift off tonight into your own quiet world, remember, the ancients believed you might be receiving a gift. Not all Roman traditions were majestic or sacred. Some were simply delicious. Among the strangest and most beloved was a tiny, sleepy creature, raised not for work or worship, but for feasting, the edible dormouse, soft-furred, silent, and nocturnal. To the Romans, it was a delicacy. They kept them in gleraria, small ceramic jars, where the mice could doze and nibble until plump. Fed with nuts and grain, lulled into a peaceful sleep. When ready, they were gently removed and prepared with honey, wrapped in poppy seeds, or stuffed with herbs and pine nuts. They were served to guests at banquets, not as the main course, but as a treat, a sweet, savory morsel to begin the meal. To us, it might seem strange, but for the Romans, it was part of the rhythm of slow, seasonal eating, a bite of comfort before the wine and the stars. And tonight, as you settle into your own quiet corner of the world, perhaps there's something soothing in knowing that even the ancient Romans enjoyed a bedtime snack.